What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning into the channel. I'm assuming if you clicked on the video, we're here to discuss SHARKBITE fittings and you're trying to get a different understanding on them. I've been familiar with them for probably between 15 and 20 years, and they are a pretty common thing now in the plumbing industry, specifically probably more on the homeowner side of the plumbing industry. They have kind of revolutionized being able to make certain repairs, especially for those homeowner types, and making plumbing repairs much easier. So I kind of wanted to do a video and discuss with you guys them in a little bit further detail, which oftentimes gives me a chance to do a little bit of research and learn some information for myself as well. I've used them off and on, like I said, for probably 15 years or so. They've been around since 2004, based on my research, was around the time that they came out. And they give SHARKBITE fittings an approximate lifespan of around 25 years. They say that's pretty much common with other plumbing materials, is about a 25-year lifespan. I think some other materials well outlast that. Copper's been around a long time, and in most applications, I would say in people's homes, it hasn't been touched for well over 25 years. So I don't know how much I buy that. That's what, some of the information that I was looking at on it stated. But if you're a homeowner watching this, you've never even heard the word SHARKBITE, or you've never had the opportunity to use a SHARKBITE, we can discuss what is it and what does it do. They basically take the place of making other types of pipe and plumbing repairs in your home, and they will work between 3 different types of tubing that may be in your home. So you typically see them used in repair sections in people's houses when they've needed to make a change, or they've had a leaking pipe. Maybe they had to put in an outside water spigot. Something like that, you'll generally see them used. But they're called a compression fitting. Basically all they do is they're different from other types of compression fittings that tighten down onto the plumbing and the piping. These have a EPDM type of O-ring inside of them, which will last a very long time. But what it does is that the O-ring slides over the tubing, and then there's a series of clips in here that actually bite into and hold it onto the piping as well, and it will not let this fitting slide back off once it's pushed on. It does have a release ring that can be depressed with a tool, and it can be pulled back apart if need be. That's why I say there's a lot more use probably on the homeowner side than there is in the professional plumbing side, because it's what is considered a mechanical fitting. It can be taken back apart. They're still widely used in the professional industry, especially for their ease, but they tend to be a much more costly fitting as well. So there's some other more cost-effective ways that professional plumbers will do full-size plumbing upfits on a job site. So again, like I said, they can connect between 3 different types of piping in your home, and the 3 different types of tubing that a SHARKBITE fitting will go over top of is copper tubing, CPVC tubing, and PEX type tubing. It was kind of funny in doing the research or doing a little bit of looking up on SHARKBITE fittings. At least the one source that I was looking at strictly said that SHARKBITEs were really only supposed to be used in conjunction with PEX tubing. But anytime I've ever seen this tool advertised, it's always been illustrated that it has the converted, it's able to be converted amongst 3 different types of tubing, and that's what makes them so popular, so widely used. And you're able to do lots of different types of repairs that you wouldn't otherwise be able to make especially on the homeowner side. And they're just a good tool. They're a good, easy to use tool. They make some situations that would be much more frustrating a lot more manageable. And that, I believe, is on the professional and the homeowner side. So like I said, it pretty much relies on an O-ring inside and some clips to hold it onto the piping. Let's see. I think that it's as important with SHARKBITE fittings. You may have a little bit of discrepancy out there, but I would say most people that's ever upfit copper tubing, it needs to be extremely clean when you use the fittings and you're going to solder new joints and junctions and stuff like that. So I think that it's equally as important on a SHARKBITE fitting to make sure that that piping and tubing is clean. If there's any kind of burrs or debris on the piping, you can compromise the seal that the fitting's giving. That also would mean that if you're putting the piping in any kind of an extreme angle or bind on the fitting, is probably going to cause it, you know, maybe some undue stress or potentially a leak, something like that. They come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. Obviously here I'm holding a ball valve. That's 3/4 tubing. And this one specifically is given some room for the piping to slide. I've noticed this on some of the newer SHARKBITEs where they are giving you some more room to slide the plumbing together. That has typically always been one of the main frustrations that I've had when using them, is depending on how much play or slack that you have in the pipe that you're trying to get fitted together. So they're starting to work around some of that. But again, like I said, they're great fittings. They're pretty much a solid brass construction other than some of the seals and things inside of the valve. But they come in a variety of different sizes. They pretty much make a SHARKBITE that will fit any type of plumbing need that you have, as long as whatever the tubing is able to connect into it on the compression side. They make it in stops or caps so that you can cut piping off, cap it off, turn the water back on. You've probably heard me talk about those in a lot of my shower videos, whereas if you were to get into a predicament in your shower or something starts leaking on the house, it's always good to have a couple of these on hand in whatever piping size you have in your home. 1/2 inch, 3/4, typical. But I always keep a handful of different fittings. You know, and maybe, again, like I said, there's some discrepancies on how people want to use these. Some people don't want to leave them in their house for a long term. But for a short term, to get you up and going, I think they're phenomenal to get a problem squared away and you back up and going until you can either make a more extensive repair or have someone make a more long-term repair. But again, like I said, these things are technically rated for around 25 years. I do know, and that's another talking point that I had on my paper here, is that you need to be extremely cautious and aware of whatever your local building codes and things like that are, because not everywhere is the same. I have heard some debate in our area that they are not permitted to be put in locations that they cannot be able to be gotten to in case there is a leak. So we always operated under the assumption that we weren't able to bury one in a wall anywhere. And again, like I said, they're really too costly, I think, to do large plumbing upfits, and we typically did a fair amount of it of plumbing. So I would always do a more permanent connection with a crimping tool, and works with the same types of piping, but it's a lot more cost effective. But like I said, you just kind of want to make sure that you're up to snuff on where you're using them, what you're using them for. But they are extremely handy. I think probably anybody that's ever messed with any kind of plumbing, especially on a regular basis, has used one at some point or another, and will probably continue to use them in different places because they are so versatile. But they, like I said, they come in many different types of shapes and sizes. If there is a type of plumbing fitting that exists, they probably make a SHARKBITE that is the same. Like I said, shutoffs, female connections, male connections, caps, or stops, whatever you want to call it, union fittings, 90s, T's, lots of different configurations. I wanted to talk about too what I used to see in a lot of home applications when a homeowner would probably use one of these, and say there was a bad section of copper tubing in the crawl space or the basement, something like that. It's very easy for a homeowner to go down to the store and buy a coupling, and a short piece of PEX piping, and say they had a bad spot or a leak, something. You can plug it in, and put the new piece of pipe in, and you're back up in business. So that's a lot of what you see them used for. Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Maybe somebody would want to come back and do a more permanent repair later. I typically recommended people, if they were having issues like that, to update certain sections of the home plumbing to maybe a more superior product that you know, could give them a lot more life with the home. So like PEX, something like that. And I would typically replace bigger sections than just small repairs, and I would sweat a crimp 2 fitting in and crimp all new PEX in, depending on what you're doing. But the other thing that I wanted to hit on topic-wise is I guess it falls in line with knowing when and where to use SHARKBITE fittings. And like I said, with code, it also kind of comes in. I've seen a lot of homeowners use these in problem areas, like maybe they put it on an outside plumbing fixture and it's in a lot of direct sunlight. They say that drastically reduces the life of the fitting because it does have some plastics in it. A lot of plumbing materials aren't going to be the best in a lot of direct sunlight, but you definitely don't want to use them in any kind of an underground application. They are definitely not rated to be down in the dirt, and that's probably the worst place that I've seen them used in a homeowner application. Is a lot of people think they're okay to use underground. Actually, one of my friends that I just worked with, or that I work with currently, his neighbor was having an issue with a very minor water leak at his house, and so he had put a gauge onto his plumbing and was realizing that he was losing, I forget exactly what it was 50 or 100 gallons of water a month, but they knew that they had a leak somewhere because the bill kept I think increasing steadily, and he knew something wasn't correct. So he actually had a plumbing friend of ours come out, and they were able to diagnose it and figure out what happened. I would say probably in the time frame that they backfilled the house's foundation, somebody probably hit the plumbing coming from the meter base and into the house with a piece of equipment, or maybe a Sawzall, something like that. But they had taken a SHARKBITE and plugged the PEX back together underground, and lo and behold, the fitting started to fail and it was leaking underground out in his yard. And they were able to find it, but then had to make a more permanent connection. So I do have at least one first-hand account that I know that they will fail if put underground, and can just cause a lot of problems. So I would say don't do that. Mostly just be up to speed on where you're using them, what you're using them for. But again, I don't have any problems with the fittings. They're a great fitting, they're a great tool in many different circumstances and applications. But hopefully this little bit of information helps you out. I know it helped me out to at least look at a couple of things that they're rated for, and a little bit of the timeline behind them coming out. So, you know, if you like videos like this, we always appreciate you tuning into the channel. I'd say subscribe if it, you know, sounds good to you, and I hope to put out more content that's able to be useful to you. So like I said, we appreciate you being here. We look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care and have a good day.